The following is a Hoop Ball presentation. Welcome to the Fantasy NBA Today podcast.
Hello and welcome to Fantasy NBA Today. My name is Rochlani, and I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Adrian Benjamins, on a Friday, August 24th, I believe it is. How are you, Adrian?
I'm doing great, Neil. Another week in the books. We're inching closer and closer to the NBA season. I think we're like 6 weeks away, man. Are you excited or what?
It goes by fast here. You know, I love the anticipation of the NBA season, but I live in Chicago, so as summer starts to go away, I start to get really sad because I know it's going to be cold, and it's going to be, and we're going to get dark. And that's actually one of the reasons I got into fantasy basketball, because the winters here are just kind of like, and so fantasy basketball helps to kind of make it more entertaining. So go ahead.
You know, the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. I got to say, I live in Southern California. We always predominantly have warm weather here, even during the winter. I get a little jealous of your cold winters, man. I think it's, there's something kind of glamorous about wearing jackets and scarves and the white winter thing. So I know I'm just kind of, doing that whole grass is always greener on the other side of the fence thing.
Man,
though.
If you ever want to swap houses, I'm more than into it. You can get your fill of scarves and accessories. And don't forget the long underwear. That can really come into play too. Okay, so let's move on to some fantasy NBA stuff. This is a hoop ball presentation. You can follow me on Twitter at Ball with Neil. You can follow Adrian Benjamins on Twitter at Adrian Benjamins. A couple of things before we get into. So we have done five divisions within the two conferences so far. We're still to do the Pacific Division, which we will do today. Talk about who we think won or lost the offseason and some thoughts going into this coming season in terms of fantasy value and players we like. But before that, a couple of things we want to talk about. First, I'm going to talk about the Hoop Ball Leagues, which I am helping to coordinate. If you have not got into a Hoop Ball League and you are interested, please follow me on Twitter. And again, that's at Ball with Neil. Please follow Dan Vesperis as well, at Dan Vesperis, and then tweet at us. And let me know which league you would like to be in. We have two types, rotisserie or head-to-head. And then we also have another two types, free or cash, and cash is US $50. So that is the first announcement. Adrian, since I've got you here, I want to talk about mock drafts because, you talk about doing 150 in preparation. How many have you had so far this off season?
I stopped counting. If I had to guess, I'm going to say 20. I'm doing about 3 per day. Hey, funny story, actually. Got into a mock draft with some of the Roto World crew guys, and one of the guys I love to follow, Mike Gallagher over at Roto World, had a pod today about the mock draft that I was in with him, mentioned me consistently on his show because I was one of these teams that kept sniping his picks. And man, I got to say, doing mock drafts with those guys is cutthroat. You get zero value on guys. All of the buzzy guys go very early in these mock drafts. I did another mock draft later today with just random people in Yahoo. I got every single target that I wanted in the round that I wanted. It was like the easiest mock draft I ever did. But Neil, I know you mentioned to Dan yesterday that the mock draft thing, you're not learning too much because the rankings are so out of whack and stuff. But I'm still learning, Neil. I'm learning. Neil, I tried a build today where I went very wing heavy. I completely ignored my theory, my point guard center early theory. I hated my team, Neil. And there's not, out of all the positions, there's wings you can get late. There are actually some decent point guards you can get late. There are no great centers that you can really get late. So getting centers early, I'm learning is very important. What do you think, Neil?
Yeah, I started to learn that last year in reality. There are just, the way the modern NBA is going, centers are a dying breed. And And if you aren't someone who wants to punt free throws, it's hard to get a center who can shoot free throws well and get blocks. And you're right. Those guys at the top are really good, but then once you get through the mid rounds, or even like, I don't know, like Steven Adams started going pretty early last year in my draft, I think like 5th or 6th round, and it's hard to get. He's kind of not a great free throw shooter either, so it's hard to get quality centers late. I'm with you on that, just because those guys are no longer in abundance anymore. So I think I am going to steal, or I'm going to say co-opt your draft strategy and go centers early. And point guards, like you said, there are some that I think are going to be lingering out there that are going to be decent, that can be serviceable towards the end.
Off the top of my head, some of my favorite targets, this is like round 7 or later. I love targeting guys like Dejounte Murray. Markelle Fultz is usually still on the board. Real late, I love going. I think DJ Augustine's going to be very surprising this season as the starting, really the only point guard in that backcourt for the Orlando Magic. And then real late, I like Colin Sexton. Gonna kind of be like a similar feel to De'Aaron Fox, a little inefficient, but I mean, I'm talking, Neil, last couple rounds of your draft. So some decent centers. Like, I still want to lock up at least 2 quality point guards in the very beginning of the draft, though. So anyways, Neil, my thoughts on mock drafts. Oh, lastly on mock drafts, Neil, we're going to be wrapping up this whole division recap thing. We still got a little time to kill. What do you say you and I try to get a mock draft, you and me, with Hoop Ball listeners, and then on a future show, let's do some analyzation of this mock draft. What do you think?
That would be great. I would love to be, first of all, get into a mock draft with listeners and get those guys' thoughts. I'm sure they have a lot of I know we have a lot of listeners that are really good. I'm almost afraid to mock against them. But anyway, that'd be great to do that and then analyze what we think, how we did, and, what adjustments we made on the fly. Yeah, I'm all for that. Actually, I want to ask about two point guards real quickly before we move on that I'm targeting later. And I also want to see where are they going so far, if you've even seen them being drafted. Darren Collison and Brandon Knight.
I've actually, to be honest with you, I haven't seen Brandon Knight go at all, and I'm doing 12 teams mock draft. Neil, I'm kind of glad you brought this guy up to my attention here, because I think Brandon Knight, a great target really late, should be the starting point guard on this Phoenix Suns team, and could be a really decent value late. I don't even think he's getting drafted at all, Neil, not at all. And Darren Collison, let me see if I can find him. He's going in the top 50 in Yahoo.
Really?
And let me see. I'm trying to find him right now on their list. I can't find him.
Oh, that's all right. I was just curious. I thought he might be a late round guy, but it sounds like he's more mid round draft pick. So. Well, I want you to do all the research and then tell me what to do so I can win my league. I keep picking your brain. Okay. And then before we move on to the Pacific, you said you want to talk about a trade in one of the leagues that we.
Wait, actually, real quick, I want to correct myself. Darren Collison's average draft position in Yahoo Mac Drafts 73, so he is going past the 50 round. Okay. Do you like him there?
No, I kind of wanted to get him around 100, but because I think he's going to finish around 70 something. So I was curious to see. I thought maybe Oladipo would overshadow him and Turner and the other guys there, but he's still getting some respect, it seems.
So I'll tell you what. One last thought on Darren Collison: D'Angelo Russell, Dejounte Murray, guys like that are going after him. I would much rather have those other guys than him. Okay, so Neil, in our Hoop Ball Dynasty League 2 league, we just finished up our slow draft. Neil, I'm talking 360 players came off the board in this draft. Some guys I've never even heard of. Euro stash guys came off the board, right? So we had our very first player-for-player trade. It caused somewhat of a debate on the forum, not because it was an unfair trade, but because a lot of opinions on who won the trade. So you don't know the trade yet, Neil. I'm going to throw it at you. Want to get your thoughts. Who won this trade? Here we go. Myles Turner for Gary Harris, straight up. This is a 2014 Dynasty League, 9-category, head-to-head. Who would you rather have? Who do you like, Neil?
Oh, my God. This one is really interesting because, well, I guess in a vacuum, right, because we don't know the team builds. But in a vacuum, Gary Harris versus Myles Turner, my first gut feeling is I would rather have Gary Harris.
Wow. See, this is why this trade is so fascinating. I would rather have Myles Turner. And, look, first off, I think it's an even trade, a great trade. Both guys similar in age, 22 for Myles Turner, 23 for Gary Harris. Now, both guys this year are getting drafted in Yahoo mocks around the same neighborhood. Gary Harris at 46, Myles Turner at 52. Now, here's the thing, Neil. This is my thinking. Centers are the scarcity on blocks and centers, and I feel like Myles Turner has a little higher ceiling, meaning if Myles Turner reaches full potential and plays at his maximum ability, he can be a first-round type talent, where I feel like Gary Harris at his best, I don't think he can reach that first-round ceiling. But now, here's the thing. Here's the contrarian argument. Gary Harris does feel like he's got a higher floor, right? Like, Gary Harris last year finished 46, where Myles Turner finished at 67. So you feel really safe that Gary Harris at worst is going to finish like in that 45 range, where if things go really bad for Myles Turner, you could be looking at 75 value. So I understand that part of the argument. What do you think, Neil?
Yeah, so this is where my biases come into play because I am someone who's risk averse, especially as I think these deeper leagues, I think it's obviously, if you hit on Myles Turner, you may win it, right? Because, like you said, his ceiling is way higher. I know Larry Bird loved him when he brought him in and said he's one of the best shooters on the team, and he's certainly shown that at times. And he's incredible blocking the shots. Doesn't do a ton of rebounds, and I think last year he was probably just injured. I'm guessing why he didn't perform so well. So I think he might really hit that. I think the probability is there, or there's a reasonable chance. I just think Gary Harris is a solid NBA player who's going to be doing this year in, year out consistently for the next 5 years at least. And he's done it the last couple of years. And I think he's someone who is constantly getting better. I don't think he's not a superstar who came in and was like, okay, I'm going to run a team. He's someone who's had to prove himself, and he keeps getting better. And I just love his field goal percentage for shooting guard. So I agree. It's much safer, Gary Harris. He has a lower ceiling and a higher floor, and so that variability, being able to say, I know what I'm getting with this guy, and it's going to be pretty good, versus I have a guy who could be great, or he could be pretty good, or he could drop off. So I think it's more like a personal preference for your sort of risk tolerance.
So my last thoughts on this trade, Neil, if you can draft someone in the 4th or 5th round and they end up as first round talent, that is a league winning move. Let me give you an example, Neil. Last year, I won 2 leagues, my home league, which is very important to me, and another big money league, by drafting Victor Oladipo in the 4th round. He returned first round value for me. It substantially helped me win these leagues, Neil, and that's what I mean. I mean, drafting Myles Turner in redraft leagues right now, he's going in that 4th round. If he does end up returning first round value, it can just win your league. And I can't stress enough taking a shot like that, how big it is. So I just wanted to note that. But hey, lastly, love the trade. I think it's even trade. And I know we're looking at it right now in a vacuum, if you were able to see these teams, Neil, you would even feel better about this trade because I believe the team that gave up Myles Turner, he's set at center, could have really used a guy like Gary Harris. And the opposite, the team getting Myles Turner kind of needed a center. So it really worked out great for both teams. Fair, even trade. I love seeing trades where like both teams make out from it. Those are the best trades.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds like these guys both knew what they needed, and it worked out just fine. It's good to see even match trades too. All right, so speaking of winning your league, are you ready to go over to the Pacific Division and talk about the Golden State Warriors?
Let's do this.
Okay, so I got my spreadsheet up here. Let's see. Golden State Warriors. We have to call them winners, right? After they got DeMarcus Cousins in the offseason, or are you thinking maybe not?
Absolute winners. Getting DeMarcus Cousins. Neil, were you as shocked as I am when DeMarcus Cousins announced that he would be joining the Golden State Warriors? I mean, I didn't even think anything like this would be a possibility. Like the rumors were maybe the Lakers, maybe staying with the Pelicans. I mean, Neil, this team's got five starting all-stars on this team. A great bench with Livingston returning, Pat McCaw, Andre Iguodala, Kevin Looney, Jordan Bell, another year experience. I mean, how can you not call this team a winner, Neil?
Yeah, it's just when I heard it too, I was dumbfounded and I was upset. But anyway, that's just my own thoughts. I didn't see it coming at all. I thought he might end up. I didn't know where he was going to go. I thought Dallas was a possibility, but then obviously they got DeAndre Jordan. So let's. Do you want to talk about how you're going to value some of these guys? Is that going to affect at all how you value any other player in this team, having DeMarcus Cousins?
So, okay, here's the deal, Neil. I am a little bit shying away from the Warriors because they're gaining this reputation for resting guys. I owned Draymond Green in a lot of leagues last year, saw him miss a lot of games because just rest. And so I'm a little worried down the stretch, during fantasy playoffs. Are these guys going to miss games? Also, the second part of this, you're adding a guy, DeMarcus Cousins. Neil, DeMarcus Cousins is a usage monster. He requires a lot of usage. All of these guys are going to see a little downtick in production. And just because of that, I'm shying away from a lot of these guys. Look, don't get me wrong. Stephen Curry, Kevin Durant, they're going to finish his first round value, not a problem. Klay Thompson, one of the safest guys. You and Dan talked about it yesterday on the show. Klay Thompson, one of the safest guys you can draft. Draymond Green, still going to be great. I'm not saying these aren't great fantasy assets. I'm just saying I don't look at them the same way as I have in previous seasons. What do you think, Neil?
Yeah, I am nervous about this rest on the stretch. I haven't played in too many head-to-head leagues with the playoff format, so and in the one I did last year, it ended relatively early, so I didn't have to worry about the bench sitting. But yeah, if I had a league that ended towards the end of the regular NBA season, I might pause on some of these guys because of that. Let me ask you this: are you at all gonna draft DeMarcus Cousins late?
No, I'm staying away from DeMarcus Cousins. I really feel like they're going to save him for the playoffs. Now, I'm not saying he's not going to play in the regular season. Yes, he's going to play in the regular season. But I'm just saying that their main focus is to have DeMarcus Cousins at full strength for the playoffs. So they're going to take it easy in him at the beginning of the year, which is really great news for the usual guys, right? And also, sleeper guy I really like, Jordan Bell. I think Jordan Bell at the beginning of the season is going to be a really nice fantasy asset and put up some really great value to start the year. But late in the year, I'm just really worried, Dan, Neil, when we need these guys at the most, which is at that stretch run at the end of the season, fantasy playoffs, are they going to be resting? Is DeMarcus Cousins going to be the main focus? Like, It's just too many questions for me. What do you think, Neil?
Yeah, I want to go back to what you mentioned with Jordan Bell, because we talked earlier about how there aren't that many great centers left at the end of the draft, right? And he might be one, though. As he's someone that I'm not sure if I'll take a flyer or not. Today I did my initial sort of projections on Golden State, and when I kind of projected it all out, I don't see Jordan Bell being as good as I thought he was going to be based on my projections, which of course could be totally wrong. But I thought I would peg him in for a little more statistical value. Is he someone you could see getting in the end of your draft?
Yes, especially if I miss out on center at the beginning of the draft. You're absolutely right. Neil, this guy, his average draft position in Yahoo Mocks is 128. So I think at the start of the season, he's going to be really, really nice. And I really like him at the end of your draft. I think he's going to be a great guy to draft. And then it's just when DeMarcus Cousins gets to full strength. But, we don't exactly know when that is. So I really like drafting Jordan Bell. I think he projects really nicely, too, with those defensive stats.
Yeah, I mean, we saw some games last year when he did really just break out, and then it never really sustained itself. But now with McGee gone and Bell, I believe, the starting center, he could have some really great fantasy value in the beginning. I just don't know yet. Okay, should we move on to the next team? Or anything
Let's
else
move on.
Golden State? Anything else you want to
Nope.
talk about? Okay.
That's about it. All
right. So
what do you got for Team 2?
Yeah, LA Clippers going into the standings of last year, 42-40. I'm pulling up my spreadsheet here, refiltering it. I'm sorry. Should have prepared. This team had sort of a character change, with Blake Griffin leaving. They're now a little more faceless. They've got Patrick Beverley coming back this year, assuming he's going to be fine. Gallinari, the potential for injury is always there. You've got Avery Bradley at the 2. Tobias Harris seems to be the focal point of this offense. And then Lou Williams at the point as well is a potential six man of the year again. And then Gortat and Harrell at the center. What intrigues you about this team fantasy-wise? Oh, first of all, winners or losers? What do you think about this offseason?
I'm going to call them winners only because they added a lot of depth. One of the deepest teams with the deepest backcourt in the NBA. Now, for fantasy purposes, I don't like that. Patrick Beverley, Milos Teodosic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Lou Williams. They drafted another shooting guard in Jerome Robinson. This backcourt is just overcrowded, and I'm staying away from it completely. But here's the thing. The best part of this team is Tobias Harris. He's the guy that you want to own. And real interesting, though, Neil, Tobias Harris is not going at a discount. His average draft position, I'm trying to find it right now. Where is he going? He's about like a 4th round guy in Yahoo right now. And, that's probably about where he'll finish. We saw a nice boost in his numbers when he got traded to the Clippers. We know he's going to be the number 1 option, the alpha guy on this team. What do you think, Neil?
Yeah, I think he's going to be the best real player, and the best fantasy player as well. 4th round sounds about right, especially in ACAT leagues. He finished last year 54th. I believe overall, and or in averages, excuse me, and I think he'll go up a little bit now that because a lot of that was spent in Detroit. Okay, actually, speaking about late round point guards, is Beverly being drafted at all?
Yeah, Beverly goes pretty late, like last 2 rounds. And real quick to touch back on that, Tobias Harris average draft position, pick 39 in Yahoo mock drafts right now. So, I was really hoping can maybe land him at like round 5. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. But yes, to answer your question, Patrick Beverley is getting drafted late. He goes the last few rounds in a lot of the mock drafts that I'm doing. And I think Patrick Beverley could be decent. I'm really not targeting this backcourt at all, but I could see, we love the steals. I'm hearing word that Patrick Beverley is finally fully healthy and he feels like he's ready to go. So that's a good sign.
Yeah, he isn't someone that ever put up great like popcorn numbers, as Dan says, like a lot of points or a lot of flashiness. But his defensive stats are usually pretty solid for point guard. And he gets decent assists, so I would target him in the late rounds as well if he's still there. I'm more intrigued by the center position. I think it's kind of like a fantasy wasteland this year, though, between Gortat and Harrell. I don't think either one's going to be all that great. If I had to pick one, I'd probably go Harrell. Do you have an opinion on their center situation?
Right now, Gortat is projected to start. Gortat getting up there in age, kind of later in his career. I agree with you that Harrell, I feel like, is the guy that will eventually kind of rise to the top in that front court. Could be a really nice value in deeper leagues. So it's a really nice note there to mention him. But Gortat's the guy who's kind of going really, really late in these mock drafts. So I don't see Harrell getting drafted at all in these mocks. But I think you're right. I think it would not surprise me at all at some point during the season, Harrell became the starting center for this team.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of expecting to happen. All right, let's move over to the wings real quick. Two decent wings in Gallinari and Bradley. As I mentioned, Gallinari is always injured. Finished up 96 last year in averages, so still not a great number even when he did play. And then Bradley, 175. Do you think either of these guys can improve upon that coming into this year?
Nope. I'm staying away from both these guys. And actually, the guy that I'm a little bit intrigued on, you didn't even mention, was what do you think of Lou Williams?
Yeah,
Neil?
I was saving the best for last.
Oh,
no, just joking. I actually did forget about him. He finished at the highest one. He was 34th overall or per averages. So keep going. Talk to me about Lou Williams.
No, Lou Williams right now getting drafted at pick 53. Average round is round 5. Look, he was so great last year. It's just the glut of guys they got, Neil. It's just, they drafted Shea Gilgeous-Alexander really high. Word is Jerry West is super high on this guy. You like to think that they're going to get him some minutes because they kind of look at him as their future. So, it's just so crowded in that backcourt. It's just a situation I'm going to stay away from, I think.
Yeah, I wish I could get him later. I think Lou is still someone who's very comfortable with the 6-man role, so he doesn't have to be part of the third lineup, and he can still put up great numbers in that role. So if they relegate him to that role, I'm still okay with him. Last year he played 31 minutes, and I don't know if he'll take that much of a dip, and he finished 34th. So if maybe I would take him at 50. We'll see who's still there. But you're right. There's a big backlog, and there are new guys coming in, and who knows how good this team's going to be. So maybe he doesn't play a lot. Maybe he's not part of the future. I really don't know what's going on over there in terms of that. So it's a bit of a risk, but he's proven that he can do well in a bench role. Anything else you want to say about that, on him or on the Clippers before we move on to the other?
Last thoughts on the Clippers. I do not trust Danilo Gallinari at all. I'm going to stay away from him. Really, the cream of the crop from this crew, the main gem, is Tobias Harris. Love Tobias Harris. Really like what I saw last year when he got traded to the Clippers. So don't know if I'll be able to get him in my teams, but I'm gonna take a look at him for sure. All right, Neil, let's move on. You got the LA Lakers next?
We got the Lakers. Some offseason moves they had, I heard. So should we talk about that? I mean, we can kind of just put them in the winners column, I guess, right?
When you add arguably one of the greatest players in the game, maybe the greatest player of all time, how can you not call them winners, Neil? LeBron James. Now, Neil, from a fantasy standpoint, I'm kind of confused on this team. Lonzo Ball, they added Rondo. There was a lot of buzz when they added Rondo that the starting point guard spot was up for grabs, so it kind of scares me off Alonzo a little bit. Also, I don't trust Rondo. The wing feels a little unsure with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. I really love Josh Hart, but exactly how many minutes is he going to get? There's a lot of question marks here, Neil. One guy that I do feel semi-safe drafting because he's going fairly late is Brandon Ingram. Is still I believe he's only 21 years old. I don't think we've seen close to his ceiling yet. And I really hope we see more improvement from him. And usually, because I'm going so point guard and center heavy to start my drafts, I usually kind of look to see if he's available late. So I do like Brandon Ingram. LeBron James, I think, is going to be first-round value. Finished as a top 4 guy in 8-cat leagues. Had maybe arguably the best season of his career last year. He is 33, but let's be honest, Neil. I mean, have we ever seen a guy in this kind of shape, never gets hurt, so LeBron feels safe? And then in the center spot, very confused. JaVale McGee? I don't know. What do you think, Neil?
Yeah, I hear JaVale doesn't really have I think he has some asthma issues, so he can't play that many minutes, but I think he is going to start and play maybe. I was listening to a Lakers podcast earlier, maybe like around the 15 to 20 minute mark, so I don't think he's going to have any fantasy value. LeBron is sort of an interesting one for me. You're right. He finished 4th last year, played all 82 games, but even overall, I mean, in averages, he finished 4th. So I think we have talked about it, or maybe I heard you and Dan talking about how you think he's going to take a little bit of a rest this year and not be pushed so much. So I don't know if I'd take him in the top 6 or top 8 this year. I'm not sure where I would take him, but it would probably be towards the end of the first round. Lonzo Ball, I'm going to stay away from unless his percentages are just so bad. Unless I see like some great improvement in preseason, I think I'm going to stay away from him. KCP is another one I'm going to stay away from. I think he may lose some usage this year. Rondo, I don't think he's going to compete for the starting job. So unless Ball gets hurt, I don't think he's going to have fantasy value. Kuzma is someone I might target late. I think he's still going to play a decent role when he's in there in the backup, or he might even get some starters time. And then, like you said, Ingram is probably my favorite player in terms of value here. Do you remember where he's going in the mock draft so far?
I don't remember. I want to say it's about like round 8. Okay. And I think I really like him right there. I think he's worth taking a shot on. I know Dan's not as high on him, but I think he can be a really great player. I feel like he's got the tools to be a really nice all-around fantasy asset. So, I don't know, Neil. And then, real interesting thing real quick on LeBron, his average draft position in Yahoo mocks is overall pick 4. But, Neil, I've done a couple mocks where I've seen him go like as late as 8 or 10. So he can drop in the first round. And so, it's just a lot of question marks. We just don't know. This is one of the oddest teams in the NBA with their additions of guys like Rondo and Lance and Michael Beasley. And so, they've got this weird fusion of older players mixed with young talent and Ingram and Hart and Ball and Kuzma. And it's just it's going to be very interesting to see how this all meshes together. I do not, what am I trying to say here? Luke Walton has his work cut out for him, I think. What do you think, Neil?
Yeah, he's got a lot of egos to manage, right? In this team and a lot of personalities. So, a lot of minutes to spread around. Ingram was 120 last year in averages, but he looked like such an improved basketball player from year 1 to year 2. I'm sure you, as a Laker or as a Los Angeles native, noticed that. And I think he's someone who could jump again this year. I think he's someone who's working on his game really hard. Is now gets to play with, the highest IQ, best player in the world. And I think he's going to be better. I think his percentages are going to be better. I think his efficiency will be better. I don't think his shots are going to go down that much. I think LeBron is willing to have these guys develop. and he can get rebounds. He can pass the ball. Had good assists last year. He can get steals and blocks. So yeah, he's someone who kind of fits my criteria. The only thing I worry about is the free throw percentage, but if that's something he works on and he gets into the 70+ percentile, that'll be fine with me, or 70+ percentage. Any last words on the Lakers?
Yeah, real quick on last thoughts on Brandon Ingram. Last year, I was completely off of Brandon Ingram because there are a lot of buzz going into last year that he was changing the mechanics of his jump shot, which was a real surprise to me because, going into the draft, one of the big things that he was being touted on was a good shooter. So I had very low expectations on Brandon Ingram coming into last year. From what I saw, I watched a lot of Laker games. I thought he looked really good. Very surprising to hear that his actual ranking of where he finished on the player rater was actually so low. But I just really feel like he's got all the pieces to be a great fantasy player. He's got a really good all-around game, can score, can rebound, can do a little bit of everything. So he's got really good size, still so young, Neil. So I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm willing to take a shot on him, especially since he's going later in drafts. So last thoughts on Brandon Ingram. All right, Neil, you want to move on to the next team?
Yeah,
who do you got next?
We have teams left. You want to guess who came in fourth in the Pacific Division last year?
Well, I know we got the Kings and the Suns left, and I know the Suns got the number 1 pick in the draft. So I'm going to say the Sacramento Kings.
That was fantastic deduction. Yeah, very good. Are you okay? So Sacramento Kings. For me, they got winners or losers. They got Bagley in the draft. Are you still big on him?
I'm on the fence on Bagley. Here's the thing. I think Bagley's going to be a really good offensive player. I think he's a great rebounder. So I see him kind of being like a 2010 type of guy. But reality-wise, I'm not sure he's the type of guy that helps you win. I'm not sure he's the type of guy that makes his teammates better. So from reality-wise, I don't know if he's going to make this team better. Fantasy-wise, I think he's going to eventually be a pretty solid fantasy player. He's got a great motor. That's one of the things that he had. He was getting touted on coming into this draft. High rim runner, rim-to-rim runner, great second jump. So I really like this guy from a fantasy standpoint. I'm just not sure from a team reality standpoint how he's going to do. What do you think, Neil?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just concerned about this crowdedness in the front court there in Sacramento this year, and I don't know how they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna compete for a playoff spot. So I imagine they're not gonna. It's not gonna be like a starting five that plays 30+ minutes. I think it's gonna be a lot of guys that play in the 20s, mid 20s, and up to like 29 minutes. So I'm really worried about that for Bagley and Cauley Stein and Zach Randolph is still in the picture. I don't know how many minutes he's going to get this year. And then Harry Giles, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, is going to be there. So that front court just seems, in the wing position, seems a little crowded for me. There's also Justin Jackson. So I'm probably staying away from front court players on this team. I do like the back court, though. De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, and Bogdanovich. All those guys, I think, can be decent this year. Hield finished 95th. But came on strong towards the end. Bogdanovich finished 129th, but I think, again, showed that he can do a lot of different things. And De'Aaron Fox, I'm a believer in his game, and I think if he starts to get the starting point guard role and get sort of that leadership position and play the minutes of a starting point guard, I think he can be decent. So all those guys I'll be looking to target towards the end of my draft, those three players. I'm not sure I'll end up with any of them. There might be better options over on the board still at that point, but those are three guys that I think could be fantasy contributors. I'm just really worried about the front court being too crowded. Is there any player you're specifically targeting off this team?
I think it's really strange in the 20 or so mock drafts I've done. I haven't ended up with a single king, I think, which is really surprising. Great take on the front court. for this team, we don't think of the Kings as a elite team or a contending team. So it's really strange that I agree with you. They're crowded. Their backcourt feels crowded. Their front court feels crowded. They're real deep. And it's weird to say that about a team that we don't consider an elite contending team. But absolutely, is it Harry Giles? Is it Scal? Is it Scalabisi? Willie Cauley-Stein? Are they going to go away from win? There are a lot of question marks. Neil, they still got Zebo on this roster. I mean, I don't know. The question marks with Marvin Bagley, him being a rookie. Look, you kind of like to think that they're going to give Marvin Bagley the run because, look, this is like the first time that the Kings have had a high draft pick. They took Bagley number 2. They're going to want to show that they made the right decision. I feel like they're going to kind of inflate Bagley's numbers by making sure he gets the proper run. So I kind of feel like Bagley late is safe. And for me, the number 1 safest guy on this team, De'Aaron Fox. I think, Neil, they didn't draft Luka Doncic because word is they didn't want to take the ball out of De'Aaron Fox's hands, which I think is complete ludicrous on their part. I mean, what, Neil, can you not have more than one ball handler on your team? What do you think about that?
That's crazy because Doncic is more like a Ben Simmons type, right? He's really tall and he can play the wing position and handle the ball as well. So yeah, I don't know enough to say that's. I mean, I would have taken Doncic number 1. So, but I do like De'Aaron Fox as well. But I would not think that would be a complicated issue.
I mean, Neil, look at a team like the Warriors. They have like 4 guys who can bring the ball up the court. Sometimes, sometimes Draymond Green is their point guard. So I don't understand why you would think only one guy can handle the ball. It is complete ridiculous to think that way. But, I should have mentioned De'Aaron Fox earlier in the show. I mentioned point guards that are going really late. I believe I said Dejounte Murray, DJ Augustine, Colin Sexton. Let's throw De'Aaron Fox in this category as well. I think De'Aaron Fox could be a real solid late point guard if you miss out on guard early in your drafts. I think he's great. I love your take on Bogdan Bogdanovic and Buddy Hield, a guy who really surprised me last season. Love the threes. So I really hope we see improvement from those guys, Neil. Neil, any closing thoughts on this team?
No, I like what you said about that as well on De'Aaron Fox. I think last round point guard for sure. If he's there, I would take him. All right, so we are moving now to Phoenix, and these guys are more like the traditional, like you said, bad team. They don't have a lot of depth. Or actually, they do have a little bit of depth. But what do you think about this team?
Call me crazy, Neil. I'm going to call them winners. And, this is a team that I really did not like watching last year. And I feel like that's flipped. I feel like they're going to be must-see TV this season. Brandon Knight coming back. Devin Booker, intriguing young top prospect in this league. Is Josh Jackson going to improve? How are they going to mesh with TJ Warren? Neil, they added Trevor Ariza. They got like a little glut of wing guys going on here. Front court, number 1 pick, DeAndre Ayton. Is he going to be the franchise center that they hope? There's a lot of intrigue here, and I can't wait to see how this all pans out. What do you think, Neil?
Yeah, this one is like you said, how is it all going to pan out? I don't know. The reason I mentioned Brandon Knight at the top of the podcast is because he is someone who has proven to be a decent fantasy player when he gets minutes. And so since he's not on anyone's radar, if he's still sitting there at the end, I would take him. So I think he is right now. What I see is he is slotted in for the starting point guard position. And I know Booker runs a lot of the offense, and once he gets the ball, it tends to stay with him. But I think they brought in a new coach who I think is very well respected in teaching the game. So I think there might be a little more ball movement this year. So Brandon Knight is someone I will target late. Devin Booker is someone I'm probably not going to get on my teams, although I think he is a great NBA player. TJ Warren, like you said, there's some wing backlog there, so I think might get fewer minutes this year and put up less value than he did last year. Finished 81st overall in ACAT, and then they brought in Trevor Ariza, who is usually someone you can count on to do decently well. But the other guy, like you said, Josh Jackson is someone I'll target late. I don't know what it's going to be. He may be someone who's off my team by the end of the first week. Usually my last couple picks are really flyers. Like they're guys who I think could finish in the top 100 if they sort of like get those minutes and have the role that they might have had it towards the end of last season. And then if they don't work out, I'll just drop them because there's a lot of players on the waiver wire that do start to sort of show up right away that no one really was expecting. So he's someone I might take a flyer on as Josh Jackson. DeAndre Ayton, I think is going to go too early for me to get. Are you targeting any of these guys specifically?
If by some chance I miss out on center early, DeAndre Ayton's the guy that I will likely own if I need center going towards the middle of my draft. I think he's an easy 20 and 10 guy. And then, he gets no love because he's touted as not a great defender, but I think that's a little overplayed and overrated. I think he's a little bit better of a defender than he gets credit for. And, I can see him maybe getting a block a game here. So I really like taking DeAndre Ayton in the middle to late middle rounds if you miss out on a center in the beginning of your draft. And then real quick, Neil, a group of bench guys that I find very intriguing. I'm not drafting any of these guys, of course, in standard leagues, but for deep leagues, Eli Okobo, 19-year-old rookie point guard from France. A lot of buzz that this kid could be really good one day. So I'm really intrigued to see his development. Mikal Bridges, another rookie wing guy who could be really good. Now, I have very low expectations for this guy because of the glut and crowdedness on the wing that we had just talked about. And then lastly, really very curious to see, is Marquise Chris, is Dragon Bender, are these guys done? Are these guys busts? Or are we going to see some life? Are we going to see a pulse out of these guys? And, both these guys still very young, I believe around 21 years old. So want to keep my eye on that. Lastly, they signed Rashawn Holmes, a hoop ball favorite pick. Rashawn Holmes, because DeAndre Ayton's the guy there and they added Trevor Ariza, we're not expecting Rashawn Holmes to be standard league value, but just a group of guys to keep an eye on. Neil, any last thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought all those guys up because it did remind me again just how much young sort of potential talent all these guys have, and we're not really sure how good they are. And with a new coaching staff coming in, maybe he reevaluates them all, right? And he kind of says, okay, this guy, although he didn't really do well last year, maybe I'm going to give him a chance because what I've seen as I've developed him in the offseason or watched him in the offseason practice. So this is one of those teams that I really don't know how to project very well, except for Devin Booker. And I think he's going to go a little higher than what I want to take him at because of just how many points he puts up and how many three-pointers and how his potential to hit 50 points can happen in almost every game. But that's the last word from me on Phoenix. Do you anything else you want to talk about Phoenix or any of these other teams, any of the other things we talked about tonight?
Yeah, very last thought on Phoenix. Just I mentioned before, I'm really excited because of all these question marks. I want to watch Phoenix, and I'm really happy that that's changed because Phoenix was a team that I did not enjoy watching them last year. So I'm excited to see this team and to see how everything pans out. Very, 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 very last thought on Phoenix. Josh Jackson's a guy that I'm usually taking a small forward wing guy very late in my draft. He goes like the last couple of rounds. And I think Josh Jackson could be a nice value. Little worried about his shooting. At Summer League did not shoot well at all. And I really hate guys that bring my shooting percentage down. But to take a shot on him that late, I think it could be a really good value if he ends up playing to his ability. Okay, Neil, that's it. We just went through the Pacific Division. We're hitting the time limit on the show. Let's put a bow on this. What do you got going on for the rest of the week?
I'm jet setting again this weekend. I'm going. I am going up to a lake house in Wisconsin, and 3 hours away from the city. Looking forward to getting away and to spending time with some family. How about yourself?
Neil, you live the good life, my man. Jet setting. Oh, man. I'm so jealous. This weekend, what do I got going on this weekend? No plans, which I kind of like those weekends where there's nothing going on. I actually enjoy that because, with 2 kids and a busy family, there's always something usually going on. And I kind of like that. Just going to be sitting at home, mock drafting, probably. So, yes, doing some mock drafts. Neil, I'm just enjoying this calm before the storm. I'm really trying to embrace this quiet time because I know, Neil, you and we're going to be very busy when the season starts. So just enjoying this time right now. Neil, why don't you take us out of here, bud?
All right. Thanks, Adrian. Enjoy your quiet time or just downtime, I guess, this weekend at home. And I look forward to picking your brain from all the mock drafts that you do. So thanks, everyone, for listening again. You can follow the 2 of us on Twitter. He is at Adrian Benjamins. I am at Ball with Neil. And to everyone out there, thanks for listening and have a great weekend.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.